about interviewing you is like, I've known this guy forever. You know what I'm saying? So I said, I don't know the questions to ask because I take the things for granted. So let's just jump right in. I mean,
Okay.
you are the CEO of the Brinker Group. What does that mean? What does it mean to be the CEO of Brinker? Tell us about your work, your line of work.
Yeah, actually, so my line of work is commercial construction. That's our core business. We have five commercial construction companies that build. We build everything from hospitals, arenas, stadiums, corporate headquarters, sports facilities, industrial buildings, etc. And I'm also the CEO of the Brinker Family Asset Management Company, which is our family office as well. So, what it means to be CEO is really just putting people in the position to succeed, right? So, providing the appropriate resources, strategic vision, and just mentorship and guidance as needed to accomplish our goals at the end of the day. And for the family office, it's a bit different there. I mean, obviously, we have a vision in place for the family office. I look at that as more of my my fun job. I get to do all of the things that couldn't necessarily do in the core business. So we have investments in everything from a sports team. I actually just got my NBA trophy for the Denver Nuggets yesterday. My ring's coming next week. To deep tech companies where we convert CO2 to vodka, fragrances, sustainable air fuel for the U.S. Air Force, um, things like that. So, from a CEO perspective, it means a couple different things based on which business I'm working on that day.
I mean, it's no question here that you're extremely accomplished. Like just like with, I think it is empirically factual. You're so accomplished in all the things you've done. But what does it typically mean to get into this line of work? Like from asset management to commercial real estate, what's the traditional way by which people sort of make it there?
Yeah, so that is the beauty of it. There are so many different pathways, right? So for myself, my pathway, um, I would say was a bit untraditional to a point, leading up to college, and then after that, I kind of fell into my own pathway. But it could be you obtaining a degree from a college or university. It could be you, similar to my father and his story, where he didn't finish college and actually went into the field as a carpenter's apprentice.
Hmm.
He actually started off as a truck driver and proved himself out that he could be in this industry, and they gave him a shot to get trained as an apprentice. He went on to become a carpenter and decided he wanted to create his business after working as a carpenter for 10 years. So I'm second generation. I'm only here because of him. I mean, obviously, I've put hard work in as well, but there's so many different pathways for it. I even look at myself. In high school, I loved space. I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to work for NASA. And growing up in Pontiac, Michigan, which was an urban city, not a lot of exposure. I honestly didn't know one engineer growing up and thought aerospace engineering was my pathway to becoming an astronaut. Little did I know it was more about creating engines and rockets and stuff like that. And so once I figured that out, my sophomore year of college at Michigan, I was like, well, I kind of know this construction thing. Let me just go ahead and do civil and environmental engineering with a concentration in construction management. So everyone's pathway is different, but there's so many different opportunities.
So it seems like if I'm distilling this correctly, that you can either sort of start at the bottom of the industry and work your way up, prove yourself out, like your dad did, and
Mhm.
completely blow everyone's mind. Or you can go in through traditionally through I study this in school and then I find my way in. Now, look,
So
I know you well. I know you
yeah,
well. And I know that like there are some pivots along the way
for
that you've
sure,
made.
for sure.
So you go into aerospace engineering because you want to be an astronaut. Realize like, oh, it's not really what I thought I was, what it was. So you go into the civil engineering route, which is much more in the trajectory of construction, right?
Mhm.
But then what happens?
but then I had a couple pivots, right? So that is that.
Tell us about those pivots.
Yeah. So that is the beauty of growing up in an entrepreneurial family. I knew that the core business was here, but I wanted to make sure I had the passion for the industry before I came to work for the family business. So
Mm,
prior to that, I actually took the career path of music. I was a owner in a music production company. I also owned a nightclub at the same time. Did that for about 3 or 4 years, and through that time, it really allowed me to understand the hard work that my father had put into building the group of businesses. And I was more grateful for the environment, the ecosystem, the opportunity that I was provided through his hard work that then provided me and fueled me with that passion to want to come back to the family business, but not just come back to work, but really to work harder than anyone else to outwork our own employees, our competitors, but really to make our business even better than what he had done for the first 20 plus years. So through that, felt like I've accomplished that in a way where I've grown our business by almost 300% since I took over as CEO. I've professionalized our business. We went from operating as 5 different companies to now we're one group that operates 5 companies together. So I have an executive team of 14 individuals that have the autonomy to run the business. I set the actual strategic plan. We actually were headed out on our retreat next week, matter of fact, or sorry, uh, the 1st of January, the first week. But through that though, it's allowed me to provide or create this level of accountability throughout our industry top down, or our company top down, in a way where everyone is aligned, everyone knows what that mission is and that vision is, and we've had incredible growth.
So tell me about those decisions you made. Right. So you start a record company, running a record company, nightclub, and you go, you know what? Actually, this ignited fire for the family business. I'm going to get into it, but I'm going to pursue it in a way that's different than my dad did. Right. What were some of the intentional decisions that you made to sort of subvert the normal ways by which the company operated, the industry operated, and perhaps even your competitors in the space would operate?
Yeah, absolutely. So it started with me first and foremost when I made the decision that I wanted to come back and work for the company. At that point, I told my father that I wanted to go through the process like everyone else. I wanted to be interviewed. I wanted to be hired on my own merit, not because I was his son. Nepotism was important, like in the way I wanted to make sure I didn't get included in that because I've seen how that works. and
Yeah.
so I went through the process. I interviewed with various people within our company, hired in as an entry level project engineer, making $45,000. Now, keep in mind, as a club owner at 21 years old, I was making like 15,000 every Saturday night, right?
That's
So it's a big difference, right? And so, but when I came in, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that I was uh, capable, I was talented, and I had the desire and passion to be in the company. And
Yeah.
so it started there, and then from there, I was that employee that I was the first one here, last one to leave. And I made sure that my work was done. It was done correctly every day. And then as I continued to grow in the company, when it was a point in time when my father felt like I was ready for leadership, he did something that is probably one of the best case studies for MBA students ever. What he did is he went out and he hired a gentleman who was one of my biggest mentors today, who had recently sold his construction company and was looking to retire in 4 years. So he brought him in as president of our group, and the goal was to train me for 4 years so
Mm.
that when he retired, I would be ready to assume that role and kind of be off and running. And so for the first year, I was a fly on the wall, listening, didn't really understand a lot. I'm in these meetings like, whoa, this is different. By year 2, I'm starting to get a comfort level. By year 3, I was in a position where I could make decisions for the company, and he was my backstop. So it was almost like he was the figurehead, but I was the one making decisions. But he would tell me, "Hey, you should think about A, B, or C." But it came across to the company as if it was him making these comments or
Yeah.
decisions. And so by year 4, I was at a point where he was like, "Hey, you make the call. I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong. I'm not going to
Mm.
let you get too far out of bounds, but I want you to see what it's like if you don't make the right call, so you know how to respond to that as well." So by year 4, I was really comfortable. And throughout that process, though, there were many nights where I was up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning reading 200-page contracts because, once again, through my career journey, I always was in a space where I had performed the task and the role. So as I'm managing people, I've done it, so I know what it entails and what it takes.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
as I'm going through the process of learning contracts and how to negotiate contracts, that was super tough, but it paid off. So throughout the whole course of my journey, it was always very intentional. And then as I took over and he retired, my first year, I saved our company almost $2.5 million in terms of like savings of restructuring contracts with our employees and things of that nature. And then a lot of it I have to give credit to just exposure, right? So
Mm.
I had the ability or to be in rooms that my father hadn't been in. I was exposed to different things. I won EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2018, which I went to their national conference and it put me in this room talking about family offices and strategic planning. And so one of the first things that I did was really come back and say, "Hey, this is what my vision is for the company. I want to make sure we have a clear vision that employees can recognize and execute. B, I wanted to make sure that we were professionalized in a way that we had the right talent and not just on the right bus, but in the right seats on that bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then give people the accountability because I had watched my father for so long where people would look to him for answers. And if it wasn't the right answer, they would say, "Oh, well, Larry told us to do it," in lieu of it being collaborative in a way where, "Hey, let's talk about what our plan is. Does everyone buy into it? All right, now let's go execute. And if it doesn't end up being what we thought, we all have accountability. It's not just
Yeah.
me, right?"
Now,
And
is that a normal thing in like the construction industry, i.e., that the CEO would be in these rooms with these big thinkers? Like, I guess when I think
I
about,
would say I would say not oftentimes, right?
Mhm,
And
yeah,
I can say I'm extremely fortunate to have had that opportunity to be in those rooms. It's been a bit serendipitous, even how it happens, right? Like it's times where I'll meet someone and it's a totally random connection and that person ends up being my biggest cheerleader and putting me in other rooms, right?
mm,
And then
mm,
through that, though, I've made it a practice just because of how my father started the business to the opportunities I've gotten to make sure that anytime I could pay that forward, I do so. So if people reach out to me, I always make time, no matter if I know you, if I don't, whoever you are, because going back to my father's story, it was basically a 10-minute meeting that gave him an opportunity to work in construction that now led us to where we are today. So it changed
yeah.
the trajectory of our family's journey, right? And if I can give someone 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour of my time and hopefully do the same thing, that's truly what it's about.
So, first of all, that's I think there's a few things I'm picking out from here. There is the learning by doing, right? Starting entry level and working your way up to it. And even I think there's this idea of succession planning in a way that, like, I mean, your father could have just took you under your wing, under his wing, and just coached you. But instead of having a proxy in between you, this guy who becomes your mentor and runs the company as the president, creates a buffer between you and him, but also sort of provides you guidance that would have been seen as nepotism, to your point, if it were just your dad. But then not only providing guidance, but giving you the space to lead with the buffer of him
Absolutely.
as sort of the serial de Bergerac in a lot of ways, which I think is really, really
Yeah.
cool.
So that truly was probably the most valuable piece of it all. Is my father and I are extremely close, great relationship, almost like brothers. And oftentimes it's extremely hard for G1 to let go of the reins for a
Yeah.
G2, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you're working together day in and day out, it's hard to separate home from work at times. And the best thing that happened with me was he literally gave me the freedom to learn and mess up and him not be on my shoulder, on my back, hovering. But it was more like I was behind this curtain being trained. So when the curtain opened, I ran out and I was ready. And he was like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
who is this guy?" Right? And so like it like instantly gave him a different level of respect for me professionally as well, which helped us be even more in line with our long-term vision for the company and growth and how we operated as partners. And we've been partners now for a while, and it's always a bit weird, right? Because your partner's your father, and it's times that we have straight and honest and direct conversation, and it's always respectful. But end of the day, he's still my father, right?
That's right.
And he also started the business.
Yeah.
But it's been something that I wouldn't trade in for the world. I mean, to have the ability to work with my father every day for the last 20 plus years now has been something that I will forever remember, and will hold. It'll definitely hold a special place in my heart as well.
Once you took the reins of the company, what were some of those early decisions you made as far as the
Yeah,
projects you took
great question.
on, the things
Yeah,
that you did that your father would have never done? Like
right. This, yeah,
how did like
this is the
tell
fun
me about
stuff.
that? Give me in the mind of Larry, the CEO, Larry,
Yeah,
who's running
absolutely.
this company. You
So
talked
one of
about
the
those
first things
decisions.
I did was make sure that we upgraded our technology. Now, one of the benefits I had was one of my first jobs was this like $200 million hospital project, where we joint ventured with a multi-billion dollar company. So I got a chance to see all of their technology processes. And because we were a joint venture, our company owned a portion of that as well. So I brought all of that expertise and knowledge back to our company. But the first thing I did when I took over was focus on technology. I gave all
Mm,
of our field staff iPads so that now they're making decisions in the field. They don't have to go back and write down something or email. They could take photos of a condition. They could send it over to the architect within seconds, and it could be documented and more efficient in terms of how we would run our projects. Because every minute, every hour that a trade in the field is stuck and they can't finish doing something, that costs a lot of money. I mean, to
yeah.
the tune of tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that was the first thing that I did was optimize our efficiency in the field. And then from there, I focused on the office side of things of optimizing the technology in our office. So now, in lieu of having those big blueprints from back in the day, everything we do is basically on a computer. So we take
Yeah.
off our estimates from software on the computer to how we project manage our ERP for our accounting and financial system. We have the same technology that every billion-dollar company has, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that was a huge focus. And then thirdly, going back to the strategic planning piece, I was chairman of the board of the Construction Association of Michigan, and we went through um, a strategic planning session where there were 12 CEOs on this board. So imagine just the that room, right? In terms of egos and everything else. And so I watched this guy come in and started off being purely chaotic. And by the end of this session, we were all aligned and on one page. And I said, wow, that was pretty amazing of how he was able to take these egos and different personalities and get us all to the same point. And so I never forget, I came in and I said to my father that I wanted to bring in a third party consultant to come in and help us create a rolling 5 year strategic plan so that every year we would update it, but it was always a 5 year outlook.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he says, okay, well, yeah, sounds good. It's your show. If you want to do it, go ahead. I probably wouldn't do it, but hey, do it. And so I set a lunch up with my father and the consultant, and I'll never forget. The consultant says, "Well, Larry Senior, I know why Larry Junior wants to use me, but why do you want to use me? Like, why are you here at this lunch?" And he says, "Well, I'll be honest. If it were me running the company, you wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be here. But because it's Larry and he wants to do it, I support it. I understand that the way I've done business is probably going to be different than how he does it. And also with that, I understand that he has a better sense on technology. He's been in more rooms than I've been in, so
Mm,
I'm giving him every opportunity to grow the business. So I say that to say that uh, it was a big step for my father to let go of those reins and
yeah.
first of all recognize that he probably would do things differently, but give me the autonomy uh, to better the company and grow the company and professionalize it as well.
Where do you think the industry's going? So, if the
Yeah,
implementation of technology has been one of the bigger things by which you were able to subvert not just the industry, but particularly how the companies run before you, what's next?
yeah,
Where's the industry heading? How are you preparing for it?
yeah. So I am extremely excited about where the industry is headed from a technology perspective. When you look at the numbers, any state across the country, everyone is suffering through a decrease in workforce, right? And
Hmm.
especially when you think about skilled trades. So in Michigan in 2008, 2009, during that downturn, we lost like almost 90,000 skilled trade workers in those 2 years.
Wow.
They
Wow.
moved
Wow.
to, Florida, Las Vegas, wherever. And then by 2020, this was back in like 2014, they were saying this, but by 2020, 3 and 4 job vacancies would be due to retirement. All of that
Mm,
came true, right?
jeez.
So
That's a
we're here
double
in
whammy.
2023 and it's all true. And so some of the technology that's forthcoming that we're seeing is really one that's huge and it's being researched at the University of Michigan, which is cool, is robots, right? So, from the standpoint of robots being able to install drywall and metal stud, to painting, to doing things that A, makes us more efficient, but B, kind of fills or covers that gap of the lack of workforce. So I'm super excited about the technology piece. Like we have capabilities now where we can put you into a 3D environment, a 4D environment for you to test out your building prior to us ever digging one hole to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And
Hmm.
so that once we get into the field, we're not making changes that's slowing down the project or costing more
Yeah.
money. Even things as simple as a facilities manager can go into this 3D environment or 4D environment and look at where a valve is that he or she would have to open or close. And depending on if they're right-handed or left-handed, they can tell if it's in the right spot or if it needs to be moved to be more uh, convenient. And it's things like that that, from a technology perspective, is really making us more efficient, but also ultimately making us a better contractor as well.
So we're talking about adding robots to the workforce. Potentially, would you all do like 3D, 3D printing in like your
Yeah,
construction?
absolutely. Yep, yep. That's happening as well. There are
But how are
actually
you
some
preparing for
homes
this?
on the
Like
West Coast.
if this is where things are going, how are you preparing for this as a leader and preparing your work your company for this?
Yeah, so it's really a part of our culture, right? So that's a big piece of any company is how you create the right culture. So in our culture, I have incentivized and gave people once again the autonomy to think about new ideas. and
Mm-hmm.
and what I've done is to go as far as to, through our family office, that if one of our employees comes up with an idea that has to do with construction tech, right, that we will not only fund that idea if we
Huh.
see it being viable, but it's almost acting as an internal incubator for our company, right? So
Interesting.
that's been fun. We're working on a few
And
things
that's
now
not
that.
normal though. Like when I think about construction companies, and maybe I just have an outdated orthodoxy of
Mhm.
what a construction company is. That's not how I normally think about construction companies.
Yeah, I would say in what I would say the larger multi-billion-dollar companies, it can be normal or standard practice. For mid-market companies of our size, I feel that we are definitely ahead of the curve. That's not happening. We even as have gone as far as to have certain types of insurance that we use that other mid market companies can't necessarily don't have the skill set to operate. So
Yeah.
it's in a way that we've been able to glean so many good things from the billion-dollar companies or multi-billion-dollar companies to
Uh-huh.
bring to a mid-market company that has allowed us to be in the position we're in, which has allowed us to create a family office and do things like that as well. But it's all been
Now,
through Marcus, at the end of the day, it's all been through exposure. And that's
yeah.
what I tell every student. I tell anybody entering the workforce is the two most important things in your career are exposure and networking personally, right?
Mm,
And if you can be exposed and create these visions for yourself or your company that turns into goals that you can reach, the sky is truly the limit. But if you don't know that it's out there, it's hard for you to set those goals, right? It's hard for
yeah.
you to get to that point. So it's all about networking and exposure.
Now I have to ask. I have to ask.
Mhm.
Have you, or how have you incorporated the things you learned in your music business career into your asset management construction career?
Yeah. So what I would say there is one of my probably greatest gifts that I've been blessed with is the ability to understand people, understand personalities, and the ability to connect, right?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of that came from those days of the music and club business because that's what it is. It's all about those connections. It's about understanding the vibration of a person, right? In terms of
Yeah,
like you have to know what fuels a person to be able to also um, push them to run through a wall for you, right?
that's right.
And so with that, it's been a situation where I can think back to the club days that I kind of came across every type of person. I came across people that I may have felt unsafe around in a normal day of life. It's been people that were incredibly talented, people who were incredibly smart, but it allowed me to really be comfortable in any room and know how to read a person and hopefully connect in a way that it's a genuine connection. I'm all about long term relationships and connections, not about, hey, how can I play into this person to get what I want today and throw them to the curb tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's all helped
I mean, your
me.
proximity to whether it's the audience in the music world or the artists that you work with, the creators, has a very clear parallel to your work.
Absolutely.
When I think about the Brinker group, that you are providing autonomy for your employees to be creative, to bring ideas, and feel like they're in a psychologically safe environment to do that. Not only will your ideas be heard, but they'll potentially be funded.
Hmm.
Unbelievable, much like buying into an artist so that an artist can be the best version of themselves, but also thinking about what might the end consumer want, whether it's your customer, the people you're building projects with, or the people who will be in the edifices or the buildings in which you're building, thinking about what the best experience of them going to be. It really, really boils down to understanding people and being able to tap into the
Absolutely.
humanity of people to get the best out of them.
Hmm. Absolutely. And so even things that we've done where we've invested money back into the company in terms of like we just recently renovated our office a few years back. And the whole goal there was to give people a feeling that they weren't tied to their desk. So we
Yeah.
have various areas where people can work, hang out, have coffee. We have a whole food pantry where we bring fresh food in every day. We put a golf simulator in our office and things of that nature where we did things with the employees in mind first, right? We want them to have fun. We always say in our values go or come back to community and family, right? And so
Mm,
when we hire someone in and we say you're coming in as a part of our family, we truly mean that because our last name is on the door. So
that's right.
so how we see it is anybody can come and go from this company, but they can go get a new job tomorrow. It's our name. We can't necessarily do that same thing. So when we
That's
bring
right.
you in, we're trusting in our family name, in you, right? And
Yeah.
so like from that perspective, it does come down to family and treating people truly like I would treat my own, kids and cousins and
Yeah.
siblings, right?
the 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 thing that keeps bubbling to the top for me as you talk, and you really framed it well, is this idea of relationships. The relationship with your father, your relationship with the industry. You had to fall in love with it. You had to sort of ignite the passion
Hmm.
that's within you. The relationship with your mentor, who served as the president for 4 years, that really shepherded you into the space you're in. The relationship with your workforce, the people who work with you, right? These aren't it's not transactional in nature. They are
Hmm.
family, right? I like that. Then your relationships with the, I wouldn't call them competitors, but your the people who are in your field, right? You learn from
Absolutely.
them, being exposed to spaces that you normally wouldn't be in, considering the size of your company. That you
Hmm.
you develop relationships with people outside the industry, within the industry, different places in the industry, and all these things become ways by which you've been able to disrupt the business that you're in and the category in which you sit as you think about the future where this thing is going. Is that a fair estimate to say?
Absolutely, absolutely. Even one thing that I always say about construction too is that although it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, the coolest part is you often find yourself in rooms with billionaires, right? In a way, like I have been in more rooms with billionaires as my clients, where I'm serving them in the capacity of construction, but it gives me the opportunity to build genuine relationships with them as well.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have this level of access through our industry that most people don't have every day. And it's not just me at my level, but even my employees from the most entry level to senior employees have been in these same rooms with me, with people that are well known, that are successful. And when you build those relationships, it opens up that next door for you as well. So
Yeah.
I've been extremely fortunate from that perspective.
Relationships as a disruptor. I like that a lot. Relationship development, relationship investment
That's the
as
next
a
book,
disruptor.
Marcus.
There you go. I like that. I like that. Relationships as a disruptor. Okay, so I know. Look, you are a busy, busy man. You're running two companies. So let's put a bow on this. Two last questions for you. The
Mhm.
first, what's the normal advice that are given to people who are navigating your industry? What's like the advice that you normally get? Like in academia, we go, you need to figure out what you want to study, and you need to, as soon as you finish your PhD program, you need to like get into a university, put your head down, publish as much as possible so you can get tenure. Like that's the advice. But in your world, what's the traditional advice that's normally given? Not that you give, but that's normally given.
That I would give or that's normally given?
That's normally given. What's
Okay.
normally given?
Um, I would say the traditional advice that to me is changing is hey, you have to come in and put your time in and you have to be here all day, every day. You have to do X, Y, and Z, right? That's just that old, like old school way of construction.
Yeah.
What the advice that I give today is, look, come in with an open mind, right? You may think you want to do this, but throughout your journey, it may pivot to something else in the industry that gives you greater opportunity, but be open to it all. And then build real relationships with people, because construction is a people business. You have to focus on the field workers to get them to buy into what you're asking them to do to get the job done. You have to have the relationships with the owners. You have to have relationships with your coworkers to be successful. So those are probably the two answers that I typically give that are different than the old school. Hey,
Yeah.
you just have to pay your time and work 40 hours a day, right? Right. So like it's just different than what it used to be, for sure.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that you have achieved what you have achieved by doing both of them, by
Yeah.
putting in the hours, doing the work, but also being open minded and investing in the relationships.
Yeah. So, Marcus, I always say that opportunity, like the old saying that it's preparation plus the opportunity equals success. But how I say it is, opportunity is a window of time that you have to take advantage of. And then when you walk through that window or you climb through that window, you have to work incredibly hard to obtain that success. Just because you
Yeah.
get the opportunity doesn't automatically equate to success.
Amen. Amen. Larry Brinker, the Disruptor. Thank you so much, sir. I really, really appreciate it. Look, it's always great to chop it up with you, my guy.
This has been fun, man. This has been fun. We go way back, and I love seeing what you're doing. And man, you're an inspiration to us all. So it's an honor to be here, Marcus.
Man, the pleasure is all ours. Truly a leader in best. Thanks, my guy.
Thank you.